And morning, everybody, and welcome to the Texas Real Estate Show. And here we are on this bright and breezy morning over in Houston, Texas, to talk about everything that's real estate. And I'm here with two guests today. One, we have Miss Courtney Guerrero, and the secondly, we have Miss Ingrid. Ingrid, as your new Ingrid, I want to please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I am Ingrid Johnson. I'm from the Clear Lake area. I am a proud mother of two boys. I have a background in banking as well as legal. Came into the industry just a couple of years ago, changed my career, and will not look back. I've been so grateful to help out a lot of families and educate a lot of first-time home buyers as well as seasoned homeowners. And I'm just here to, do what I can and continue to make help people get their dream home. I guess the American dream.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to having you on the show. It's your first time on the show.
First time.
And a pleasure to have you. How old are you boys?
17 and 14, a senior in high school and a freshman.
What sports are they into?
Basketball, football, baseball, and track.
Just a few.
Just a few.
Just a few. Yeah. How do they, I can never understand, how do they squeeze that into their school time over here to do all them sports?
Always after school usually, or before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because when my kids were at school, my kid was in band because they had it was a Scottish school, and they would turn up at 7:30 in the morning for band practice, and my son would do basketball in the evening, and I mean he wouldn't leave till 7:30 at night, 8 o'clock, and it's just ridiculous. It's like, where's the education part in that?
You squeeze that in the middle and at the very end.
How often does he play? Now, he doesn't play real football, I know, that's soccer, but I mean, right,
Our Americanized football.
But the Americanized soccer, the Americanized football, when does he play that?
He plays Thursdays. He actually has a game today.
And they play that at night?
They play in the evening around 5:30. If you're on varsity in high school, you play on Fridays, Friday Night Lights. And so,
And you've got the cheerleaders and
you got the cheerleaders, you have the drill team, you have the crazy parents. I am one of them who's very passionate as a former
Are you
athlete
one of them
myself.
parents that gives the referee a hard time?
In basketball, for sure. For sure, I am the one that is I'm sitting at the bottom on the front row, and I'm yelling at
I can't understand why people do that. I just can't understand why people do that. Because why?
They need to hear that they're doing a bad job, and they have made a bad call. That's why.
We're all human.
We are, but they chose this life.
To make bad decisions.
They know they're going to be heckled at. You know what I mean? So it comes with the territory. But we appreciate the good refs. We can, hey ref, that was a good call.
When it's for you.
When it's for you in your favor. But other than that, I mean, I don't give them too much of a hard time. I'm more so talking to my kid.
Anyway, we've got Kay at the back twiddling the buttons. How you doing, Kay?
I'm good.
You had a good week?
Yeah, I got a lot of liquids over here.
I don't know how to take that, Kay. I'm sorry, I don't know how to take that.
Coffee.
Okay.
I didn't eat breakfast this morning, so I've just been drinking stuff.
Okay, every morning.
Did you have your donut?
No, I haven't had anything. I just
And
had liquid.
every morning she comes from her condo, she jumps into an Uber, and then she stops at the donut place.
Yeah, I gotta,
Unbelievable.
get those gains in, I'm just kidding.
Unbelievable. But anyway, this is the real estate information place where you need to stop. Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We'd love to hear from you. The first few things we're going to talk. What are we talking about this morning, Kay?
The first thing that we have to talk about today is actually some really good news, I think. Lawmakers want to ban Wall Street from buying up more single-family homes across the United States. So that makes me happy personally.
And I want to just read an article on this particular item that I thought was really interesting, which will sort of share a bit more light on it. For more than 4 decades, D.R. Horton has built homes for homeowners. But this past winter, he tried something new. In a pine-nestled neighborhood just north of the Woodlands, it built 124 houses, not for homeowners, but for renters. it leased them up and put them on the market as a package deal for a different kind of buyer, an investor who was a hedge fund. The winning bid was for 31.8 million and was 79% more than the 17.8 million the community had cost to build, market and sell. For comparison, the average home the builder sold to a homeowner is that quarter went for only 34% more than cost. On all earnings call, an analyst marvels over the trade.
So what they've essentially done is, instead of selling it to each individual person and only making about 34% profit, they literally had to go away from all the paperwork to individuals, selling each individual one, finding individual people to sell. All they need to do is get somebody in there to rent, and they sold it for twice the price.
Is that nuts?
That is nuts.
And this is one of the problems that we got, because what it's doing, it's all about supply and demand, and why the cost of housing is going up, and it's causing a housing crisis, and it's not fair. I mean, people say to me, well, life isn't fair. But no, do you know what? Life should be fair. It should be fair for everybody.
I
Well,
agree, especially with, everyone's idea of the American dream is to be a homeowner.
Absolutely.
Be able to pass on this property, create legacy, and, just obtain something that gives stability.
And give stability to your family.
Yes. And so when you have these corporations that are, robbing them essentially of that opportunity.
It's corporate greed.
It is.
That's really what it is. It's corporate greed and gouging.
And the article you read is only a small piece of it. D.R. Horton has been the largest builder in the U.S. for 20 years in a row now. And last year, they built almost 8,000 units for this to rent out and then sell wholesale to investors. So, that's 8,000 properties right there just from one builder.
Right.
That did not go to homeowners. And, that's
More than
what
7,500 build-to-rent homes are being developed in the Houston area, according to the RCLCO, a real estate advisory firm. So that's 7,500 homes that could have gone to homeowners that have basically been pushed out to corporate greed. That's just my opinion.
I agree, and I think what it does is it puts us in a position where you are unable to. It's already. A lot of people are already paying more rent than they are for a mortgage. So how does that put them in a position to eventually become a homeowner?
Right.
It keeps a glass ceiling for them. You know what I mean? It almost feels like home, but it never is.
But that there's another edge to this as well. If you think about it, the smaller investor. It's pushing the smaller investor out of the market as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because what's happening is, as the insurance goes up, as everything goes up, their margins aren't as tight. So the smaller investors, like me, if you want to, what happens is we work on smaller margins, and so our insurance is going up, our taxes are going up. And we're trying to provide housing for people, but it's very difficult for us to keep that house.
I agree.
And provide housing for people
without raising your rental.
Right.
Yeah.
And also, what I think can't be forgotten is, imagine D.R. Horton. They're in the Woodlands area, north of the Woodlands, so they control that area. And they've got 124 houses in that area, which means that if they're renting them houses for, say, $2,800 each, the comparable market value for renting a house in that area has predominantly just gone up.
Yeah.
Because all the comparables in that area have gone up. For a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, have gone up to $2,800. And for some people, that is just unsustainable. Yeah. And the same problem that you get with new home builders. I'm sorry, but I don't have a great feel in my mouth for new home builders. Never have done, never will do. But it's the same thing. If new home builders go into a market and they build 124 houses, what's the first thing they do when they build that house? They set their market price. They have incentives. They add it onto the price. So if you go into a brand new neighborhood, they could sell that house for $350,000, but they'll give you incentives. So on paper, the cost that you're paying for that house is $350,000. Then the second house come along, they'll give you a similar deal, but they won't give you as many incentives. And then when an appraiser goes in to the area, have a guess what? They can argue, well, hold on, the one down the street's been sold for $350,000, and the one next to that's been sold for $350,000, and the next one, but really the house isn't worth.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it really is, I really think it's a sort of, I can't blame the appraisers, but I can blame the builders. And this has gone on for so long. This is a reason that caused the crash in 2008 when, the appraisers and some of the real estate agents and the lenders sort of caused a problem. But now I think you've got the builders causing a problem.
I think something too that we can look at is if you guys, on the article that you were reading, Stephen, if you looked at the photos, it's really creepy, if you've seen that movie, The Stepford Wives, where all of the houses,
The cookie cutter.
Yes, they all look exactly the same. They're all the exact same house.
I have a neighborhood. It's a small one that's kind of like it was a small builder that's right next to me that has all the different color houses with the white picket fence around them.
Yeah,
It's
so
like,
that's what this is. They're really creepy.
What, all the houses are the same?
All of the same. The
If you look
quality
at
of
the-
building is not the same as it used to be.
It's
so
not.
It's fluffed. These numbers are
It looks terrible.
fluffed.
But back to, it's good that lawmakers are trying to get this done. I know there's bills in Minnesota and things like that. And one of the biggest things that I think is good is that they're trying to limit it to 20 houses per person, per investment firm or whatever. So like even if we all went in together, it's still not as much as we would hope, but it's like, they're building.
Realistically,
houses.
wouldn't they make 20 for that investment firm and just open up another one?
And that's exactly what I'm worried about.
Good.
So it's really hard. It would be like, okay, me and Courtney are trying to go in, together, and then we're all, then Ingrid and Steven can go together, but we're all still making the same amount of money. But
Under an umbrella of the same
yeah,
corporation.
so it's gonna be something that's a little hard if
What
they
I
don't
want to
have the
know
same
is
thing.
with
I would say limit it to 5 or 10 instead of 20.
so let's move the topic on, and then we were talking about things that Greg Abbott and the government are trying to do with this. What's your idea how you think we should control it? How do you think? First of all, I don't think hedge funds should be able to buy real estate, because real estate, to me, there's two things that are very important to improve the lives of people. One is housing, and the second is healthcare. And to me, them are two non-negotiable things. I don't think it's necessarily entitlement. I think you've got to work for it, but I think they should be made as affordable as possible, so people, at the moment, the attitude of somebody like Kay is, I can't buy a house, there's no way I'm going to be able to buy a house. But I think that we need to be in a position where we make it as affordable as possible. And I don't think hedge funds should be able to come in from Wall Street and buy these particular things. I think, for example, let's look at the case that we've got. I think if they build 124 houses, like they do with condominiums, some condominiums with HOAs, they have rules in their declarations that investors can only buy 10% of the homes. That's what I think they need to do with these communities, is basically bring in rules and regulations that say, well, you know what? If you build 124 houses, then only 10% of them can be investors from any one owner.
I agree. I definitely agree with that, because at the end of the day, what we understand from hedge funds is that as we said earlier in the conversation, that it pushes out the smaller investors, so then they can control what the rent is and what that market looks like, and it can, even though it seems like it's more affordable, it's really not. So I feel like because they are monopolizing the communities,
Right.
it puts everyone in a disadvantage. And at the end of the day, where does the consumer, where does the homeowner, what can they do? And so I feel like if you limit their access or their ability to buy more properties, then it puts it more of a level playing field, I believe.
Yeah, I think there should be a percentage when a home builder builds a subdivision, what the maximum is that any one owner can own in that subdivision. I think that's one way you could control it.
Another way is maybe incentives from the government for letting first-time home buyers or letting regular people come in there and buy it instead of those investors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to give you guys some stats because I read these stats. We have a video coming out about the Kamala Harris housing plan, and she kind of, one of the things she's proposing, Courtney, is giving first-time home buyers $25,000 so that they can start. So I think that's good.
I know,
but
for my first home, I bought it whenever it was the recession, 2009. I got $8,000 after on my income taxes after I bought my first house.
Yeah,
and it
that's
paid
awesome.
for almost everything.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Like, that's something that I think would really help people. But we have
Go on.
thing where
I think you and me are going to say the same thing.
No, I'm going to give you guys some stats.
Go on.
So 44% of homes in the past about 2 years have been purchased by investors. 44% across the United States. That is an absurd amount of homes that have been gobbled up by investors. And then they said that in 2022, institutional investors set a staggering $110 billion aside. $110 billion aside to begin to purchase homes. So that is an insane amount. And so, like you guys said, it is unfair to people who actually want to be able to purchase homes. And so they said that it was about 400,000 new homes, 30 billion.
But also they reckon for us to catch up, so it's equal between supply and demand for the homes, we need to build 3 million homes for us to be in an equal supply and demand situation. How can we catch up with that 3 million if these builders are selling them to these corporations?
Yeah.
We'll never catch up.
That's
People will be renting for the rest of their life.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately what a large amount of the cases are. We have a lot of cities that are moving to renting cities. Kind of going into our next topic, that's rents are plummeting. That's why, in Austin, it's getting cheaper to rent because people are just building apartments.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a personal story I told you earlier on. My daughter, she lives in San Marcos, which is just outside Austin, and she's moved to a place in between Besser, I think it's called. And basically, when she moved out, she was paying for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I think she was paying $19.50. Was it $19.50? No, $18.50. And then she moved out, and she moved because she wanted to move nearer to Austin, to where she's working, and they leased the house that she was living in for $17.50 because the prices have dropped.
Nice.
So the rentals, in some communities are coming down, but there was a time in Austin where rents were going up, houses were going up. I mean, we're talking 20%, 30% a year.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's still a pretty tough market over there.
And I've said to everybody, when we lived through the 2008 foreclosure crisis, as a country, all the prices dropped like a brick. Houston prices only dropped about 10%. It wasn't that bad. There was a lot of people that was being foreclosed on, but the prices didn't really drop like they did in Detroit, or California.
We have too many jobs here for that.
You know.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that it's almost a blessing and a curse, right? Because we have our economy when it comes to jobs is doing well. Even in Austin, right? They just had what company was it that moved? It's not Tesla. It's another big corporation that moved there. So you have an influx of people who are coming in, where our pricing for houses or rental is a lot cheaper than where they're coming from. But
it's been reported though that some people are moving back to California because of our property taxes.
Good.
That sounds messed
By the
up.
way, Tesla is moving his headquarters to Austin.
Yeah. Okay. So now you
Yeah,
have
no,
an
he's
influx of
moved.
people.
I thought he'd already moved.
He might have already moved.
Yeah,
I think he's already moved.
Also, Oracle, one of Silicon Valley's largest tech companies, is also moving to Austin as well.
There you go.
A lot of people are getting
Yeah.
out of California and coming right here.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. But there's also a percentage of them that it's not as they expect.
That
You
will
know.
keep them here and make it feel like it was more beneficial because of course
Right.
yeah they were rushing. They kind of turned our housing market upside down because they're overbidding.
Well,
and
we've
outbidding.
got we do property management, and we've got people from California that invested and purchased properties in our market,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be honest with you, some of them think we're going to manage them for free, but we're not. I mean, we charge the rate which we consider is, because it's a lot of work managing somebody's properties, and it's a lot of risk to take it on, and we want to do a good job. And you can choose a cheap company to do it, and have problems, or you can pay a good company, and I consider ourselves a good company, and we do it very well. But I mean, there's some people that are deciding now, when they bought the house 3 years ago, 4 years ago. There was one guy from California bought a house, a brand new house, out in Richmond, and he put a tenant in there. He got a real estate agent, put a tenant in. He thought he could manage the house all the way in California, and the house is in
Have some
Houston,
connections here.
and the tenant hasn't paid him for 6 months. So we ended up doing the eviction, and we could end up doing the property management as soon as we get it leased. But we give him that option if he wants to do that. But we're leasing the property for him at the moment.
Yeah. So one of the things about Austin and all of those people moving out and going back to California is that's really good is the fact that like we've said, the rental pricing has gone down. I think it's probably going to be one of the most fluctuating cities, within the next coming years, because everybody's moving in and out. But they ended up being on the top 3 most affordable rent markets, because they're number 3, so it's about $1,500, average rent for a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, and that's 19.5% of your rental, of your income. Typically, like 19.5% of people's rent, which is awesome. That's great. And then we also have Oklahoma, which is number 1, and their rent is $1,000. Going to Oklahoma. We've got Columbus, Ohio. They're at $1,200, and that's 18.9% of people's incomes. Then we have Minnesota. Can we all try our best Minnesota accent? Minnesota. No.
Would you like a bottle of water?
That's British.
I don't know.
Stephen, can you say bottle of water?
A bottle of water.
A bottle of water.
1,500. That's 19.8%, and then we got Kansas City, Missouri. They're at 13.57, which is 20%, and then Indianapolis is at 20.27% of their income. So it does look like rental prices are going down. I don't know how long that's going to last. Maybe it is because all these corporations are coming in and just doing built to rent, which is frustrating.
Double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, I mean,
I don't think the corporations coming in is going to drop the rents. I think it's going to increase the rents.
right.
I mean, how
Because
is it different?
what they're doing is they're buying so many houses that they're jacking up the rents.
Which we discussed this probably about a month or 2 ago.
We did.
Where literally people that are renting.
Because
out.
I'll give you an example.
They're talking to each other to make sure that they're.
Yeah,
priced
I just
right.
brought up. I just
There was a
brought.
big lawsuit.
I just brought up an article. Okay, where it says 6 most cities that rentals have dropped. Los Angeles, it's down 38%. New York down 38%. San Diego 35%. Boston is down 33%. Riverside, California 31%. And the last one is Oklahoma City, where the rents are down. And Houston, because there's been a large amount of 7,500 homes have been purchased by corporations, is making it more competitive for renters to go out there and buy homes. And also, you know, it's made it more competitive to rent because they're controlling the rent prices. What I'm really interested in is if rents could be reduced on a lot of them properties that them home builders have sold to the hedge funds. I wonder how quickly the hedge funds would want to get out of them deals and sell them properties.
Depends on if they're making money or not.
But if they start to lose money on them deals,
I think it depends on how quickly, which we said it's going to be a long time before we can catch up on the demand for supply, right? I think when that shifts, I think it'll bring them out, right? Because when there's a shortage, they're winning, no matter even if they do reduce the rent.
to me, if a new home builder is classed as a new home builder, they should build the homes and sell them.
Yes.
If they build the homes to sell to investors, then I don't think they should be classed as a new home builder. They should be classed as an investment company.
I agree.
So right now it says that we estimate the housing deficiency of up to 2 million units in the U.S. So I mean, and it's only gonna grow, right? As far as the demand goes. So I have a feeling that it's gonna take us a minute to get to that point.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's really hard. So we have a video as well, just to kind of wrap this up almost, about Houston. So I'm gonna play that, just, a few seconds of it, so.
Build to rent communities in the greater Houston area. First things first, what exactly are build to rent communities? So these are purpose-built neighborhoods consisting of generally single-family homes, but sometimes townhomes or even potentially apartments, and they're designed specifically for renters. They offer residents the benefits of home ownership without the long-term commitment of buying, but basically it's a large community of homes that are built specifically for renters.
So, I think it's kind of strange to use the benefits, saying that it's a benefit of, home ownership, because I just kind of think that's silly, because and they're saying without the long-term commitment. I want to purchase a home, so I have a long-term commitment. I want, I don't think that, it's fair, but Houston ended up being, where is it? Houston is number 4 in the built to rent completion in the last 5 years. So in the past 5 years, it has increased 60% in Houston. Not as bad as Arizona. Arizona is 280%. Phoenix, Arizona. So
Where they built homes to rent them.
The communities to rent them out.
yeah.
That's terrible.
It really is. Then Dallas, Texas is, one of the biggest. Dallas was number 2. They had 102% increase. And then Austin is number 7. That was a 153% increase. And then San Antonio, Texas is number 8 with a 122% increase. So it is just...
It's crazy.
I think it's unfortunate that they try to, it's not a bait and switch, but it's one of those things where they try to highlight something that, as you're saying, like how are you going to benefit that there's no long-term commitment, when the American dream has always been stability and being able to
Own your own
own
home.
your own home, and then now that
Send
so
your kids
many,
to a good school.
and then now
you
everyone's
know.
understanding how you can build generational wealth with that, and so now it's like you want to play on people's maybe ignorance.
Mindset.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on understanding like what this really could do for you, because again, we understand that.
Yeah, but when you've got idiots like Grant Cardone, you know, the last thing he said is the other day, the last thing you want to do is don't buy real estate. Well, he's made his business on how you should.
But he wouldn't be where he's at without it.
Precisely, but he's made his money on coaching people to buy real estate.
He has.
He didn't make his money on purchasing real estate. He made his business. They've called me up and tried to recruit me as a coach for real estate for, you know, Grant Cardone, and I'm like, yeah, right. You know, if I'm going to be a coach, I'm not going to do it for Grant Cardone. You know, I did his class once, and I'm like, no, this is not what I'm looking to do. But the truth of the matter is, I mean, I don't know.
I think also to speak to some, like, I like Dave Ramsey, I do. However, some of his principles I'm not a fan of. Like,
Me too. I'm not.
He'll say,
There's some things I like. There's some things I don't.
and where he's saying like, don't have debt. Well, not all debt is bad debt.
I agree.
Purchasing a home, that's
The
not bad
debt's
debt.
noble.
Yeah, it's not bad debt, because in the event that when you start building equity and you need, as we see where the economy, people are living off of credit cards and they are drowning in debt, where you can leverage that equity and you can pay off some debt and give yourself a breather, like that makes sense to me. And I feel like when you're telling people, well, you don't have to have that long-term commitment, but where's your money going? What can you see after you've lived in this home for 5 years? What benefit has it been to you besides the fact that you can just walk away?
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you can do. You paid 100% interest.
And just walked away. Like,
And the investor gets to sell it and make that
Go
extra
again.
20, 30, 40, 50,000
And do
and do it all over
you
again.
know, this house I told about with this Californian guy, it's on the west side of town, and I'm driving along West Park Tollway, and the amount of apartments that they're building on that on West Park Tollway. Now, my son has just moved into one of them. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, all right, $1,700 a month.
Okay.
All right, for an apartment.
right.
And hopefully he's starting to make a little bit more. He doesn't tell me too much. He keeps it all to himself. But the truth of the matter is, I'm thinking to myself, you know, I hope he buys his own house. But do you know what he says to me?
He doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to,
There are a lot of
because
people,
that
younger
it's
ones.
like they're
Conditioned.
absolutely they're conditioned to say, oh no, I don't want to buy a house. I don't want to do the maintenance on the house.
That's what
I
know
don't
of.
want to do everything. I'm just going to put my money in stocks. I'm going to put my money in Bitcoin. I'm going to put my money in, in
It's just
Ethereum.
nowadays everything's about instant gratification.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, buying a house is not going to be one of those. It's going to be down the road.
So what are you telling me? I need to bring my walking stick next time?
It's going to be down the road, but I mean, I wouldn't be in the house that I'm in if I wouldn't have purchased my first house, and I would have been renting from, age 20 to 25. I would be in a lot smaller house right now.
Yeah.
I think I want to go back to what Ingrid said about, not all debt is bad debt, because literally I just linked an article really quickly that I thought was funny, because Mariah Carey, they're like, right next to it says Mariah Carey has an $18.6 million mortgage debt, and why that's a smart money move. And then she purchased a house in 2015, or I'm so sorry, back in 2009, she took out an $8 million mortgage for the penthouse. And then she borrowed another $2.6 million in 2015. And then in 2016, she borrowed $17.6 million, and she
Off the same property? Okay,
and she
continue on.
pocketed 9.6.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2018, she refinanced the loan again to 18.6 million and cashed out another 1 million. And now the penthouse is worth between 30 and 35 million dollars. So
So she spent a couple million. She was able to cash out another 16 to 18 million, and she's still got equity in that thing.
yeah, she cashed out 10 million.
10.
Yeah, and so it's like that. There you go. That's so that's the kind of advantage of having a mortgage. I mean, we don't have millions of dollars to spend, but that's a great idea for just to kind of
the tax benefits. The tax savings that comes with that. Like there's so many benefits that comes with it. It may not, as you're saying, the instant gratification come right now.
Right.
But longevity, what is it, a marathon not a sprint, and just understanding what that can do for you down the road.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So for 9 million to turn into 35 million, that's a great amount. But speaking of refinancing, we have our mortgage ladies here, 2 of them. So refinance applications have jumped 127% over the past year. Mortgage rate jump.
And we had one come in yesterday for you, didn't we?
Yes, and I actually have another one that's coming in. I made sure I posted that on my social media, and people are biting because they have been anticipating this time. I actually talked to a potential borrower, and they're like, "We heard September was a good time for the rates to drop. Is it really going to happen?" And now that it's happened, now everyone is really jumping at it because they want some relief if they can get it.
And just so everybody knows, the rates were dropped by 0.5% yesterday. We've all been waiting for a rate drop this year. We all thought it was going to be 0.25%, but as it happened, it was 0.5%, which is a pretty big drop, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a great drop, and this has been the first drop that they've had in
4 years.
4 years,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
In 4
since
years.
2020.
Right. So we've gone through the inflation thing to try and get inflation down, although it pushed it up originally, and that so hopefully it'll help everybody. And I think prices have come down. I know gas has definitely come down.
Yes.
My joke about my wife's Mercedes. She drives a Mercedes, and even she came.
Premium gas.
Even she came to me yesterday with a big smile on her face and said, "I can't believe it. My premium gas is down 0.5%." And I said, "Well, you shouldn't drive a car like that, European cars." I said, "Even the steering wheel's on the wrong side."
Oh.
Does she really have one that's on the wrong? That's on the
No.
He's used to. Yeah, that's funny.
But the ones in Europe,
They're on the right side.
Well, no, not in Germany, in all fairness, though. But anyway.
But yeah, just keep in mind for anybody that's thinking about buying is, unfortunately, when we go through what's called a refi boom, which sounds like we're about to hit that, because the feds are talking about cutting the rates another 2 times this year and 3 to 4 times next year. When we start getting those applications, over the last 3 years, there hasn't been a lot of refis. There really hasn't been as many purchases. It's been very low compared to what it was during COVID. A lot of companies, underwriters, processors, everything else have been dwindling down. We're way down on our numbers because, a lot of people couldn't afford them because the refinances and the purchases weren't there. Well, now that we're getting more busy, it's going to have a little bit longer wait times whenever we go for closings and everything else, because those underwriting times are going to be a little bit longer because of all those refinances that are in there. So get prepared for that. It might be 30 days, maybe a little bit more closing when we get right in the heart of the refi boom.
Yeah. And
So would you say, from a rate perspective, do you think now is a good time to buy? Because from a real estate perspective, the end of year is sometimes a good time to buy because people have to pay real estate taxes at the end of the year. So if they sell their house between like now and December, do you understand? That's a negotiating thing that I've always used to say, well, you've got to pay your taxes at the end of the year. Perhaps it's good to accept this offer. I know at the end of the day, the new buyer will be responsible for the taxes, but at least the seller hasn't got to pay them taxes. They'll credit them to the buyer at closing.
Yeah, it'll come out of the equity
But
in the house.
I
compared to
can't
their
tell
own
you how
pocket.
many sellers have turned around and said, you know what, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you,
I mean, do
a
you?
lot of people escrow their taxes and insurances now.
Yeah.
I mean, probably 90% of the buyers that I get do their escrows and taxes into their mortgage.
Mhm.
So having to pay at the end of the year is definitely not what's on their mind, because they're not worried about it.
No,
It's
but even
coming
if
out of
they're
escrow.
escrowing, they're still going to credit it on the
Mhm.
closing.
Mhm.
They're still going to credit their taxes on the closing at the end of the year and their insurance. But I'll be honest with you. With all my properties, I shop my insurance every year because I don't like the way mortgage companies, on the whole, if it lags, they just get an insurance company to quote it. And I'll give you an example. The one company that I had last year that I did a refi on, they gave me one quote for the year, which was like $3,800. I ended up getting it for $2,400.
Yeah.
That's a big jump. So,
Well, it's a great time to buy right now. It is getting to that peak where a lot of people are jumping back on the market because of those rates.
but
coming
what
down.
scares me?
What's
We're
that?
going to get into
Bidding wars.
absolutely.
Bidding wars.
We're going to
Yes.
get into a position where the rates. This is the continuous circle that we're in. The rates coming down. So you get back in the market, then we get back into the bidding wars because you've got the hedge funds taking all these, the properties off the market, and then all of a sudden we're stuck again.
I will say what I've seen lately, we're not quite into any bidding wars yet, but I have seen multiple offers on the last couple offers that I got accepted. So we're already starting to head that direction, and I think it's going to possibly be not as great. This is my personal opinion, not as great this time around, because now we have NAR doing all that stuff. So there's more negotiating on the seller's side as well, because they can say that they're not going to pay for the buyer's agent. So that's more
Right.
money coming out of the buyer's pocket.
Well, I'll speak to the fact that, as we said about the bidding wars, but I do think it's a great time to at least see what the market is what's available to you in the market.
Yep.
Meaning, the houses that you were priced out of, let's look at that, let's assess that, see where we are, because right now, again, if the rates are projected to drop even more within the year, then that only puts you in a better position to be able to get lower rates.
Let's just talk about the NAR thing. What have you seen from the loan officer side? Because what I've seen from the real estate agent side is deals fall apart when when the sellers turn around and say, "Oh, we're not going to pay for the buyer's agent." What we've seen come across our desk is, we've seen the deals fall apart.
So to be honest, this should be talked about before there's ever an executed contract, period.
There's a representation agreement.
Where I'm
It's
hearing
in
that
writing. There has to be a representation agreement
bottleneck is
with the buyer.
Yep.
All right, and then what happens is that has to go to that. Basically, you don't have to disclose it to the buyer, but before we can even show a house now,
Yeah.
we have to have a buyer's representation agreement. It can be a set price, or it can be on a 3% agreement, and on that agreement it states that in the event that that he's not paid, then it could fall back on the buyer, but it's always negotiable at any point.
So basically, this is just one more fee that needs to be negotiated. It takes really good communication to get the buyer through. So it starts with the real estate agent educating them on, what are the changes in the market.
When you say them educating,
so the real estate agents educating these buyers on
it has to be done now. It's NAR rules.
Yeah. So
That we have to we're exposed to information about brokerage services, and also the buyer's representation agreement. We can't even show them a property without having that and having it signed.
yeah. So
I
there's
don't
two different
think-
things between getting
I
them to
don't-
sign it
I
and the
don't-
buyer actually understanding it.
I agree with you, but I don't agree with you, because I don't think it's going to make. Texas has always been a disclosure state. It's always been the agent has always, it's in our contract that the commissions are always being negotiable. It was in our listing agreement. Even now it's still in our listing agreement. Okay. On the buyer's rep agreement, it's always been on there as well. It's just now they've changed the form in many different ways, and they've changed it again a couple of weeks ago. You know, I was looking for a multifamily property for somebody, and the commission rates between the agents were discussed before we even started negotiating.
Yep. I mean, it's
You
an
know,
added cost to the buyer if the buyer's having
you
to pay
know,
for it.
But in all fairness to the buyer that I was working for, you know, she said, look, it's quite simple. In the event that, you know, that I'm not going to get paid, then, you know, that means that they're not, you know, a buyer that's, you know, even worthwhile working with, because they're too firm and too rigid. And I don't think what's going to happen is, I think when people look at it that way, one, they don't appreciate their agent for what they do, just like the work that you do for your loan office, for the loan officers. And two, I think what's going to happen is, I would not suggest that anybody buys a house from one, I've always said this, from a new home builder, because that person working behind the desk works for the builder. I would never ever suggest to anybody to go buy a house from a for sale by owner. All right, always get yourself an agent involved.
I agree. I think most, from my end, a lot of the conversation that I've been having has been more with realtors than buyers. Just understanding and making sure that they have these conversations with sell yourself. Like, buyers need to know the importance of your role. But outside of that, it has not been a conversation for me with buyers on, well, how does this affect me?
And here's the other thing as well. I think when an agent works with a buyer, what are they really doing? One, they're offering a service, but they're not just offering a service in them buying a house. They're offering a service to introduce them to good loan officers. They're introducing a service to offer them to a good title company. You know, we was looking to one title company the other day, and myself and my co-partner Blanca, we was looking at this in disgrace. There's a title company out there still charging $685 as an escrow fee.
That's pretty high.
That's ridiculously high when both sides are paying $685. That's just for an escrow fee. You know, and then there was other costs in there. They was charging a courier fee.
No.
Who on earth in this digital world charges a courier fee? So I really just couldn't understand this. When we went through the closing statement, we went it together, and we was like, this is just nuts. And so, you know, in the Hispanic world, I've got a very good Hispanic friend, and he told me the other day, he said they have I don't know what it is in Spanish, but he basically said, you know, if you buy an old car, you pay for it at the end, which basically means if you buy an old car and you've got to fix it up, then the cost of the car, if it's that bad, you're still paying more for the car because you're paying for all the repairs at the end.
Rather than just one buying a brand new car.
And it's the same, you know, you get yourself a real estate agent, and don't just use a family member. Get somebody that you know, that's got a good reputation, that's got some good history, you know, ask around there.
I have one more point to make.
Sure.
Back onto the, you know, with the buyer's agent maybe not getting paid as much or having to negotiate those, and the buyer having to pay for it. You definitely need to work really close real estate agents and loan officers so that we're accounting for all of those fees.
Absolutely.
That way, the buyer, if they get to the table and they have an extra $7,000 on that CD, that can really make or break a deal.
That's one of the biggest loopholes and mistakes that can be made with this new settlement is if the buyer, the loan officer, and the real estate agent all aren't on the same page, it's going to create a huge problem at closing and delay closings.
Yes, because I will tell you, you know, if I didn't do my due diligence, even like on some of the files that we have, underwriting usually doesn't ask for that until the very last to be added on to the closing disclosure. So if I'm not asking for it, real estate agent isn't communicating with it, underwriter's not asking for it, then it can really make or break a deal if we're adding those huge fees on there
Absolutely.
if the seller's not paying for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
But anyway, does that bring us to the end of our show, Kay? It does? Well, thank you very much to everybody for tuning in to the Texas Real Estate Show. Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And first of all, we'd like to say thank you so much with Courtney Guerrero. How do we get hold of you, Courtney?
you can call me at 832-409-7908.
Okay. Or you can just blow a trumpet and she'll appear from nowhere. Or we have Ingrid Johnson over here. How do we get hold of you, Ingrid?
You can call me 832-889-8885, or you can find me on Facebook, just by my name, Ingrid Johnson, and you can send me a direct message. Even on Instagram, I have a cute little Southern name, Southern Grits 15. But you can definitely reach out to me if you have any questions, need anything, and I'll be able to help.
You like grits?
Well, people think my name ends with a T, and so they be Ingrid. And so one of my friends who recently passed this year, he gave me the nickname Grits. And so when I went to school on the West Coast, I was like, I'm representing the South, so I put Southern Grits. My basketball number was 15, so that's kind of how it
All came together.
My wife loves grits, and I hate grits.
They're
I'm like,
so
ugh.
good.
I love grits, but I like them sweet.
You're a sugar.
Sugar.
Oh, I'm salt
a
and
lot
butter.
of sugar.
Salt and butter.
I am also a sugar, but also if I have shrimp and grits, I could do savory too. It just depends on what I'm eating.
And they have to be cooked right. That may be the reason you might not like it, because it's a texture.
It's just the look of it.
So do you not like porridge? Like you don't like cream of
It
wheat
looks
and
like
oatmeal?
poop gone wrong.
You got to have the right ones. That's
I don't know.
a
My
I
kids
tried
don't like it
them
because
at Denny's
texture.
once, and it didn't
Yeah.
work too well.
Well, that was your first mistake going to Denny's in the first place.
No.
Don't get grits.
I love
Denny's.
Denny's, and I love IHOP,
Oh no.
and I love the Waffle House as
Waffle
well.
House is good, and they have some good grits as well.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
can't
And you
go
get to
wrong there.
watch your food. get
Yeah, you
cooked.
do. Yeah, you do.
I
Don't
went
expect
to
the whole
I went to
chicken
the
is.
I went to the Waffle House about. My wife went away for a weekend, and I think I went there one Sunday, and I must have waited like 45 minutes for a seat. I couldn't believe how busy they were.
What did you do at 2 a.m.?
Yeah, the late night. The late
No.
night club crowd.
Sunday morning.
Oh yeah.
I was
Yeah,
hoping
yeah.
everybody was going to be in church.
No.
But anyway, that's the Texas Real Estate Show for this week. We've had a great time, and I think we've had a lot of fun today. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'd like to thank Kay for twiddling all the buttons at the back. And thank you to everybody. You can find me at C21 Olympian. Just go to Google and find me. Or you can find us on, what can you find us on, Kay? Instagram at C21 Olympian TX.
You can find us on Twitter if you want to yell at us.
Go yell at
We're
us.
also on Facebook as well.
Yeah, and if you've got any comments in the chat, please comment on the chat. But please like and subscribe. It does help the channel. Thanks a bunch. Have a great day. And bye for now. Ta-da.